All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to AV 101. In this six-part series, Rave and NSCA have partnered to give you the basics on the Pro AV industry. I'm Tom LeBlanc, Executive Director at NSCA, and today I'll be joined by AV experts who will discuss the fundamentals of digital signage. But first, a special thank you to our sponsor, TD SYNNEX VisualSolve, who makes this series possible. Okay. Let's meet our panelists. We're going to start with Xavier Killikelly. Well, I practiced the name before and I still stumbled. What's up, Xavier? Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. And don't worry, it happens all the time. So you'll get it one of these days.
Killikelly.
Killikelly. Yes, sir.
All right. Brian Meszaros is from OpenEye Global. Hey, Brian.
Tom, thanks for having me.
All right. And then Sandy Stambaugh from TD SYNNEX. Hey, Sandy.
Hey, Tom. Good to see you.
All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about this industry that includes digital signage. And we're going to talk about the career opportunities in it and also try to get people a little bit excited about the chance to work in an industry that can be really rewarding in terms of the solutions that it offers customers and end users, but also really exciting. You know, I don't think people think about it as often as they might if they realized how exciting and rewarding the digital signage industry can be. But I thought a good way to start might be to talk to each of our panelists about the career path that got them into digital signage and also kind of what they do in digital signage within their jobs. Sandy, why don't we start with you? I mean, you work within digital signage at a distributor. You provide, solutions to companies that create great solutions for end users, and digital signage is a big part of that. But tell us how you got into that.
Yeah, so I mean, really, it was the evolution of the relationships that we had with our customers and with our vendor partners. I've been doing this a long time. You can tell by the wrinkles I'm in the business. Running the visual business for almost 19 years, been with the company 19 years. And so really it was, and at the time, I think when I started, it was, we were displays with CRT, right? And then we kind of migrated and eventually, got into this digital signage space. And really, we made the decision to jump in and really start investing when we saw a need. And this is very typical of TD SYNNEX, but when we saw a need for us to come alongside our customers and our vendors to help them advance the solution within the space, right? So we invested in kind of pre-sales engineering to help with the design perspective. We helped with invested in other services like installation and integration and sort of post-sales support activities. And really it was about, yes, growing opportunity. We saw kind of, the writing on the wall a little bit on where it was headed, but also really just at the need, it was a needs-based decision with our customers and with our vendors.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we'll talk more about those needs. And Brian, I want to talk to you a little bit because, all right, so I want the audience to know that before I had the role that I have now, I used to be a journalist that covered this industry. And when I had questions about digital signage, I always kind of thought of you and OpenEye Global because you live and breathe that world. Can you tell us a little bit? First, tell us what OpenEye Global is and tell us how you ended up there and took that career path.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I feel like I'm going to date myself with some of these facts. So OpenEye Global is an experience design agency. Obviously we focus on digital signage, but it's more about, it's an agency approach. How do you solve a problem and how do you use digital and interactive technologies as sort of the canvas to create these experiences on. As far as the background goes, I studying communication arts at Seton Hall University, took an internship with a college marketing company that was experimenting using screens for advertising on college campuses. It played to my love to AV and design, and was with that for, it was really almost two years. going around to campuses, Clemson, so I got down to South Carolina, installing, these programs, even went through Dallas. I was at SMU doing work there, and anyway, a variety of schools. So sadly, the program just never survived at the company I was with. And then I graduated, and there was still like a few months I was with the company, and then they wanted to transition me into doing web design. I didn't like that. And there was no digital signage industry, and this is 2000, 2001. And so I did what any other smart college kid does. They decided to start their own business. And the rest is history. And then OpenEye was born in around 2000, 2001. Probably not the best time to start a business. A lot of interesting factors. They didn't teach you that in communication arts. Probably should have taken the economics class about that. But it really was just this love and this passion and how you can use technology to, create an interesting visual experience, and really just, started to network and learn more about this industry that was only really emerging. I think at the time was narrowcasting was more of the term than it was digital signage. And, here we are 20 years later, building up OpenEye to what it is today.
Oh, that's great. And I want to talk more about that term digital signage, because I don't want to lose the audience, because I feel like that's one of those terms, but we'll get into that. First, I want to meet Xavier a little bit more. I want the audience to learn a little bit about what your role is now, but also your path into the industry, because I want to say you don't have a traditional path into the industry, but it actually is kind of traditional that people don't have traditional paths into the industry, if you know what I'm saying. So can you just kind of tell your story?
Yeah. So I'm currently a design consultant with Conference Technologies here in the Houston area. My path into the industry was a bit different from people that I know that are in the industry now, but everyone, like you said, kind of seems to fall into it in a similar way. I was actually, working in the banking world, and on the weekends I would help my cousin with his AV kind of setup that he was doing for one of the local rec centers in our area. And at that time, I didn't know what AV really was, right? I was setting up projectors and screens for him, and I was supposed to be an MC for the event, but he had me setting up and breaking down the technology. So at that time, I started to find a love for this technology that we were, presenting to these kids, and how they were just in love with being able to see a movie night and coming out and interacting. And through that, I actually met a gentleman from PSAV who said, "Hey, you're pretty good with this stuff, and you're pretty good with these people. Like, you should be in AV sales." And so I said, "I don't even know what AV is. I know what this screen is. I know what this sound system is." And I ended up getting a job as a sales coordinator with PSAV in the live event side of things. And that just rocked my world. I saw this entirely different side of audiovisual production, live events, rental staging, all of that. And from there, I became a sales manager. And I said, "Hey, where does this stuff come from?" Right? Like, all of this gear that's being shipped in, and all of this equipment that people are using to deliver messages and to, create an environment. And then I found distribution and went into distribution over at Almo. Almo is now Exertis, and I was there for some time. Being able to interact with integrators was a totally different world from the world of live events. And I was just amazed by the projects that we would see come across my desk at Almo. I said, "Wow, these people are doing some really, really cool things out there." And it opened my eyes to all of the different types of projects that there are. So my curiosity on the distribution side led to me wanting to be involved in these projects. And the best way to get involved, and be on the ground level with clients was through integration and the design side of integration. So that's what led me to CTI.
It's a great story.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, a great story, but an even better journey, because what you realize when you come through AV is that the people that you meet, you run into them again everywhere, and everyone is so welcoming, and people are here to help you learn. And if you're curious about something and you have a question, there's somebody out there who's just waiting to give you an answer and show you how it works. So My journey through AV has been an eye-opening one, and I've fallen in love with this space, and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So.
If I remember correctly, you were a little reluctant when your cousin wanted you to do that. With the AV stuff, you were kind of reluctant to do that, and if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't have discovered this career path.
That's correct. I was not happy about being out there and doing that, but and it was really because he said, "Hey, could you come out and MC this event and just get these kids excited?" And I said, "Sure." And I went out and I was breaking down projectors and all this other stuff, and I was not excited about that. But after a while, I really fell in love with it. And had it not been for that, small event on Saturday nights, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm thankful for my cousin for introducing me to the industry, and even more thankful for those kids for making it a good time. So
good stuff. All right, so 3 different panelists and 3 different routes into the industry and 3 different roles that they play that touch digital signage in different ways. So I mentioned we want to talk a little bit about that term digital signage because I don't want to lose the audience. All right. I don't know anybody in my personal life who uses the term digital signage to describe the things that are digital signage. So let's make sure the audience knows what we're talking about here. Brian, what the heck is digital signage?
I guess to kind of probably simplify it, it's using visual technology, displays, projectors, LED to portray or project video content or messaging to people in environments. If you go into a store and you see a display on the wall, digital display, it's digital signage. If you go to a QSR, you see a digital menu board, it's digital signage. You go into the airport and you're waiting for your flight and you're seeing screens, it's digital signage. And that's anywhere you see a screen hanging, display, or interacting with, I would consider that a form of digital signage.
Sandy and Xavier, do you like that definition?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think that for sure. And I will say probably all of our families know digital signage, right?
Right. Well, that's true.
Oh, yes.
Since my kids were little bitty, they walked down Main Street, there's a video wall, in a bank. And I'm like, we did that, So yeah, and I'm with Xavier, it kind of gets in your blood. And I think that one of the areas that we find a lot of passion in is the fact that it is a real solution. There's a lot of players that have to come together to make it happen. And so that partnership is pretty awesome. And so anyway, but yeah, so I would say, yes, absolutely. It's kind of the way I probably describe it to people is like a digital communications network. It's really about that communication. So it's not necessarily anymore just a sign, a one-way sort of sign. It's now, driving efficiencies and processes, helping to build culture, creating experiential environments, to bring more consumers back to public space. So there's so many really super cool use cases around what, has this digital signage, track, and it's way beyond that. It's now, it used to be sort of this secondary, front of wall offering, and now it is truly a critical part of the network, which is really fun to see.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk a little bit about what jobs and careers look like in digital signage. And I think folks in the audience, kind of the end game is trying to figure out what you want to do with your career and in whether or not it's a good fit for you. So I'm going to be very simplistic in kind of describing what I think the different roles are, or the different categories of roles in digital signage are. And I'm going to say, you can work on the content side, but I would say content and design because it's, there's more to it than just content. You can work on the hardware side, which is creating the equipment that, produces the images and the experience that's needed. Or you can work on, kind of the business side of things. And that's over generalizing, of course, but Brian, if you kind of get what I mean, can you talk a little bit about what jobs look like on the content and design side of digital signage?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a lot that goes into production and design. I mean, it's I think people sometimes kind of tend to simplify content design. It's motion on the screen, and the reality is there's an art to storytelling. There's an art to pulling that message together, and it's really there's a lot in sense of design. It's motion graphic designers. It's people that understand layout design. It's also those that are on the side of producing pieces, of going out there and actually filming sequences. It's understanding a bit of film. It's understanding that art of telling the story or to promotion, something as simple as even promoting a sale. There's an art to how that unfolds on the screen. There's an art to how the colors and fonts come together so that you as the viewer are actually able to understand and take in what is being shown to you. So from a job perspective, motion graphic designers to to animators, to people behind the camera, to editors, to also even on the content side too. It's working with people that actually understand copywriting as well, because that's a critical part to it as well, that we have on staff as well, of just writing copy to words that make sense to marketing as well. It's understanding how do you tie in just different aspects of call to action into the animation. So there's a series of job titles just along the line of just content production that go along with this.
So it's a great, sort of career area for people who are both creative and interested in, marketing or advertising, interested in writing, interested in, basically just creating experiences for something like an audience.
Yeah, I mean, and I can kind of continue on, but then that kind of goes into where Sandy and Xavier are at. Their skill sets, in some cases there's overlap, but what they do from a technical standpoint too is just so critical as well, that we rely on for that expertise and that guidance for design.
Well, that's a great segue, because I wanted to talk to Xavier about sort of the hardware, or the equipment, or the technical part of a career around digital signage. Can you give some examples, or maybe try to paint a little bit of a picture of what jobs look like in digital signage from that end?
Yeah, sure. I think that what Brian mentioned is so critical to the environment. Is understanding the content from even a hardware perspective, because a lot of what digital signage is in the integration world is delivering the right message to the right person at the right time. And the best way to do that is to understand kind of what the content is, how the content is going to be delivered, and where that delivery is going to take place. So if the content is being delivered outside, well, that you have to have a display with a higher nit count, or a more rugged display that can operate in outdoor environment. And not just the display, but also the media player, right? Media player makes a huge difference in how to deliver, and how to make a scalable solution. So if you understand what the content is, you understand what type of media player to kind of implement into a system, what type of display to implement into the system. And really our design process takes the content, takes the message from the client, what they want, how they want that message to be delivered, and then we build out the hardware around that.
It's great, because the content side of it is always complemented by how it's presented, and that speaks to the technical side of digital signage. And Sandy, it's interesting because a lot of people work in digital signage, but they don't create content, and they don't like plug in and install players and media players and that sort of thing. There's a business side to digital signage as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I would say, and I can speak to, what we do at TD SYNNEX, as a distributor, and then others, in the market. And really it comes down to, problem solving, relationships, and a lot of matchmaking is what I would say. So, we are coming alongside folks like Xavier and like Brian, and helping them go to market, helping them, solve those problems, making sure they're they're, thoughtful about the full end to end, and then also helping with maybe added kind of technologies that, maybe is a little bit outside their wheelhouse. So we're doing a lot around, IoT and data, big data, and the analysis of the data and leveraging that data to drive, behaviors or solutions within the space. And so, having experts on staff. So, I have engineers on staff similar to Xavier, right, that are helping with that design process. I have folks that are leading, the partnership with the vendor community. So on the hardware side or the software side, and they're helping to drive that kind of go to market and really simplify the go-to-market for, our customer partners. And so, lots of different opportunities to get involved, everything within the business kind of world within distribution, from, the design piece on the front end to, coordinating, projects to helping with content or services on the back end, marketing. There's a lot of different opportunities to really help bring value to what is digital signage within the market.
Okay, that's great. So now that folks in the audience have kind of got a little bit of a sense of the different types of roles and jobs they can have, I think it would be good if we talked a little bit about how they can, kind of look in the mirror and, figure out if they might be somebody who might be a candidate to work in and succeed in the digital signage industry or market. And to do that, I was wondering if, the panelists can think of any signs that people might see within themselves. So, an example might be, specific skills they have, like, graphic design might be an example, technical proficiency in certain areas, or maybe just like things that they enjoy that, might be a sign that digital signage might be a career that they should look into. Brian, I'm sure you're always, just as a company owner, you're probably always trying to think of who would be a good contributor. What are some signs that people might look for within themselves?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it's really a challenge, because you don't necessarily come out of school with a degree in digital signage. It's a mixed bag of things, or it's as I think we're all said here, it's just the path that you take, where you see a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But I'd say I look for, people that are creative problem solvers, that have an understanding, or at least a fascination with technology and AV. Well, without knowing AV, but at least the technology, just understanding sort of what happens behind the scenes. Creativity is such a broad word. I look sometimes for even people that maybe are just focused on social media or social on web design. Those are kind of like ripe candidates for people that are looking to expand upon that, because it's giving them a whole different canvas and a whole different area of design for them to explore that otherwise they maybe not have thought of. I think a lot of people will go down this path and say, well, I'm just a web developer, not realizing a lot of those skill sets translate very well into digital signage, as far as programming behind the scenes for some visual data activations, to just even the way that things are laid out online, or things are laid out onto a screen, which translate well, and the design side too. And even from the motion graphics side, I mean, there's animators and just other ones in film and that side that don't understand that their skill set actually translates very well into in this world of digital signage on the content side, at least. And technical too. I mean, there's a lot of people that just stay maybe on the live event side, but don't think about those skills translating over to digital signage. I think that's the first part I look at, is just people that sort of gravitates towards more of the traditional type of areas of communication, like I said, social to web, or even to film, and then really kind of educating them that there's a whole different way to approach it and expand upon their skill set to this new canvas.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. Xavier or Sandy, is there anything you'd want to add to what Brian said?
Yeah, I think that anyone who has a curiosity for AV and a creative mind, I think that digital signage is a great space for that individual. Someone who is great at understanding how to deliver a message, and is willing to kind of push the limits as far as their creativity to kind of deliver that message. I think nowadays, especially on the integration side, from a design consultant standpoint, we are seeing that a lot of clients are getting creative with how they would like these displays to look. I mean, you have curved walls, you have domed walls, you have so many different types of displays and types of digital signage out there. And I think if you have a creative mind and you're willing to kind of push the limits, it's a great space to be in, and to see your creativity and your thoughts actually live. And you can walk down the street and say, hey, I did that, or I had some hand in that. It's a wonderful thing to be able to say something like that. And I think that that's the type of individual that would excel in a field like this one, or in digital signage in general.
Yeah, totally agree with you guys. I love that, the creative problem solver, and just having that level of curiosity, that can-do attitude, but then also a collaborator, because, there is no project that one, individual really owns. You've really got to collaborate with all the other players to execute a really strong project and make sure that you're solving the problems that end customer is looking to solve through the visual technology.
Okay, good stuff. All right, so let's get to something fun now. So I wanted to get back to talking about the cool aspects of digital signage, and to do that, I thought it might be kind of fun for us to describe some projects that you either were involved in one way or another, or are just aware of, to give folks in the audience an idea of, if they get into digital signage, these are some things that they might be a part of. So I'd like to get each of you to get in your mind like a really cool digital signage project and then describe it. I don't know, Brian, do you want to go first?
Sure. We do a lot of work in the theme entertainment space. And so, we get the opportunity to work with Madame Tussauds, with Sea Life Aquarium, and we've worked on these immersive storytelling experiences, where we, created an interactive experience, working with Jimmy Kimmel, to bring to life and create an experience that made it feel as if you were in the hot seat with Jimmy in an interview. Several years ago, we worked on a project with Sony Pictures on bringing to life Ghostbusters as a visual walkthrough experience, and all different aspects of digital signage to really bring to life these characters and this experience, making you feel as if you're actually part of the movie, to creating exhibits in the aquarium of bringing to life the process of rehydrating or bringing rehabilitating turtles back into it. So these are just kind of a sample of the projects that we end up working on, that we're hands-on with, that are fun, because you get to interact with these icons, you get to interact and just tell a story and really help change people's emotions and just their perceptions when they go into a space. But I'd say those are some fun ones on the themed entertainment side that we're fortunate to work on.
Those are some exciting projects that I got a chance to write about. Some of the ones you just described, I got a chance to write about back in the day. Xavier, any projects come to mind?
Yeah. I kind of have two. So one that I just so happened to walk into, and that was the AT&T video wall, I believe it's in the Discovery District in Dallas. And it's like a 12,000 square foot video LED wall in the heart of the design district in Dallas. And it's a completely immersive environment. Not only from the digital signage standpoint with what you see on the video wall, but just the entire environment around you, the sound, everything, lighting, it's all tied into that wall and the images that are shown there. So I think that was one of the coolest ones I just accidentally walked into. And one of the coolest experiences that I've had from a digital signage standpoint, and I don't know if it's considered digital signage really, but it's the Van Gogh exhibit, and it was essentially a video mapping of Van Gogh's art over it was, I mean, it had to be it was a huge building, and every, aspect of the art you were able to interact with. And I thought that that was just an amazing display of just how art and AV can tie in together to create an amazing experience. And so that's probably the two projects that I think are that stand out to me as just great examples of what this space can do.
Sounds amazing, like an immersive experience like that. Sandy, anything spring to mind? You are muted right now. I should point that out.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, those are great projects and so cool. Probably the coolest that I've seen. Just a couple of really cool ones that I've seen that maybe haven't been brought up already. But I don't know if you guys remember seeing that video of the Salesforce lobby and the big DV-LED wall that was put up, and kind of the ocean waves that we saw. There's a few really cool ones kind of running around that, that one specifically created a really cool environment, and one that I would be really proud to bring, my customers into. Another that, again, interesting application and using projection was, using kind of a small projection for digital menus on a table, and also creating kind of an interactive, super cool environment for, as a mom. It was, those types of applications are pretty cool, to be able to use that to reduce, the perceived wait time and that type of thing in certain environments. Probably the coolest that our engineering team has been able to work on recently, which, I really love what we're seeing happen with digital signage right now, where it is definitely a big part of the network. Definitely coming together and solving real problems in almost every vertical market, but certainly in the business setting. But as we look toward Industry 4.0 and IoT, and using cool technologies like VR and MR within these spaces, and analytics, our team did a design and worked alongside one of our integrators to build out just a comprehensive sort of command center meets digital signage meets, mobile, interactivity and ability to make real-time decisions within a manufacturing plant. And so it's like this manufacturing plant of the future. And they were able to use digital signage to keep the team aware of what was going on within the factory. They could make real-time decisions. And then they also incorporated a mobile layer, sending content to tablets as well, where they could kind of interact with that and engage and make, again, real-time decisions that were extremely impactful to the profitability of that company, and sort of the next level efficiencies they were able to drive. So it was really kind of pulling it all together, which is really, really cool to see. It's a little complicated in some cases, but the technology's there, and we've got some really smart partners that are able to make it happen, for these guys. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And also, you mentioned things like IoT and AR, and there's this whole like tip of the iceberg, feeling around digital signage right now. And it's a nice segue, Sandy, to something else I wanted to ask you about, which is, that, people thinking about a career in this industry would be entering an industry that's, very poised to grow even more so. I remember, when I started writing about digital signage, which would be probably 10 or 11 years ago, like maybe around 2011, I guess, or something like that. I remember back then, writing about digital signage, it always had to be put into context, because digital signage is this thing that's really popular in other parts of the world, and it's going to get popular in the US. And, I lived in Boston. That's the city where I was living in. There was almost no digital signs in Boston. There was a big deal made in the news when the local PBS station put up this big digital sign that overlooked one of the highways that goes right into Boston. And people were like, is that bad? Or is that a good thing? Do we like it? There was a lot of conversation about it. Now, wherever you look, it's the platform that's used to educate people wherever they are about things that they might be able to buy, places where they're able to go. It's an expected information platform and entertainment platform. So it seems like it's very poised to grow, Sandy. And I guess that's my long way of asking you, is how do you see this industry where people are considering careers developing around digital signage?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super, as you know, I'm very excited about this industry and the growth, projections that we see there. And again, I think that number one, there's a lot of areas that are ripe for refresh. Certainly upgraded, from a technology and experience perspective. I think that we've definitely, seen more and more demand for experiences in public spaces, and that certainly, digital signage has to be a part of that, right? Digital communications as a whole. And then, going back to the use cases, beyond, 10 or 11 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, we were trying to monetize it, right? We were talking about ad-based networks and how we can monetize this and justify the expense on the front end. And I think that we're so far beyond that, because we do have the analytics, and we are using this to drive efficiencies and processes in every single vertical market. And so huge opportunity to grow. And then we are at the cusp of, yes, that growth, but also new technologies driving. So, digital signage in the physical world, but then we also see digital signage in, kind of 3D implementations as well, which is super interesting and a different way to think. And then even in, as we're talking about, the metaverse and kind of what that looks like and how does that apply, to corporate environments. There's just so much exciting, there's so much to come, that I think that now is a perfect time to get in. And we're still seeing really bad implementation of digital signage. So we need specialists in the space to educate. I have a coffee shop, actually, I won't call them out, but here in Greenville, I actually took a picture and sent it to all my digital front signage buddies, but they implemented digital signs, and it's their digital menu. And they literally have a piece of paper taped to it that says, we're updating our menu. Please talk to the host on, what the current menu is or whatever. And I'm like, that's the point of digital, So I still think that there's a need for education in the market. And so we need specialists. We need people who understand it and get it and can talk it and, can share and educate folks on how to best use the capabilities that are there. So, but yeah, absolutely. It's a good time to be in digital signage. So if you're not in, good time to jump in.
Excellent. Okay, as we kind of wrap things up here, I want to talk a little bit about next steps. So if people in the audience wanted to, explore digital signage as a career, I want them to have in mind some good steps that they should take to see if it is a fit for them. Brian, anything spring to mind?
I'm always sort of just a big advocate, just to get out there and just talk to people, or just, go online and view a webinar, read an article. But I think, the passion comes across more if you're just in person, and talking to people and meeting different practitioners and just different aspects of it. You can go to a variety of road shows and events that are coming up, and also webinars too. I mean, they're free, and there's opportunities to listen to so many different point of views from people like us to just other colleagues and other ones that are writing about the industry. It's a Google search and a good drink on a Friday, and it leads you down the rabbit hole, but in a positive way, because there's a lot of tidbits out there, and I think there's a lot of aspects of this industry that are just worth dabbling or seeing or watching or interacting with. But I think there's nothing more impactful. Now that we're back out again. I mean, just walking into a trade show floor, I think having never seen the industry before and walking into it and just being engulfed in this, or, just going to any one of these, I think, the first thing sort of enamored me is, or really appealed to me, is that you go into one of these lifestyle centers and you're just wall to wall with digital around you. And there's just something so impactful about that. There's something that's so just invigorating about that, or anywhere of that nature. But I think really it's probably not giving a good starting point here. I go back to the drink and a Google search, do a webinar, listen to a podcast.
That's perfect. That's a good place to start. Xavier or Sandy, anything you'd want to add in terms of next steps or resources that folks should check out?
Yeah, I think that if you're really interested, a great way to follow people or companies is always LinkedIn. I think doing a Google search of local integrators in your area, figuring out who they are, finding people, connecting with them on LinkedIn, you'll see people posting about cool projects and things that they're a part of. And it gives you something to talk about, right? When you are trying to connect with these individuals. And one thing I've learned about AV and the individuals in AV is everyone is willing to talk. So if you find someone on LinkedIn and you see that they're a part of some really cool projects, reach out to them, send them a message, and get to know some people, because that's really how you step into this industry and feel comfortable. It's just knowing some people and actually being involved on that level. So I would say Google search local integrator, find some people on LinkedIn, and start to connect and follow that way. That's a great step to take.
Excellent.
Yeah, for sure. There's events. I mean, DSE is coming up, in the fall. It's Digital Signage Expo or Experience. I can't remember what they changed it to, but Experience. Is that what it is? Anyways,
Experience, yeah.
Sorry. DSE. There's a Digital Signage Federation, which is an association, and it's people that have come together that are specifically focused around the different aspects of digital signage. They are, there's a whole slew of education out there, with those guys. I totally agree that, people who are passionate about this business are very vocal about it in most cases. So we're not hard to find, and, definitely love to introduce you to others that are similar. And, we just TD SYNNEX, just selfishly for a second, we do have an entire team dedicated to the digital signage business. And so, and a lot of what we do is that matchmaking. So, if you have a project or you have a partner that you think that you could roll something out for and you're trying to figure it out, we've got teams of people, and if we don't know, then we know somebody who knows in most cases. So, we're happy to help wherever we can.
All right, great stuff. So we're kind of at the end here. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, especially these folks on the panel for helping us to educate the audience on the fundamentals of digital signage. Sandy, since we're still chatting with you, are there ways that people should try to get in contact with you, or where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my team is visualsolve@synnex.com, or you can reach out to me directly at sandys@synnex.com, and we can help for sure.
Awesome. Xavier, how could people reach out to you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Xavier Killikelly. I am one of those individuals who loves to communicate and speak. So if someone wanted to reach out to me, that's a great way. You can also reach me at my email, xavier.killikelly@cti.com, and reach out to me with questions or anything that you have, and I'm happy to help and to guide in any way that I can.
Nice. And Brian, how about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. You can find me on LinkedIn, Brian Mazzaros, and then also on Twitter and on Instagram. The handle is OpenEye Global, and then also our website, OpenEye Global as well. And you'll be able to get a hold of me and see what we're up to with OpenEye as well.
All right. As for me, you could find me on LinkedIn, Tom LeBlanc. You can also check nsca.org. And I recommend people check out Rave Pubs for all the latest Pro AV industry news and research. They're hosting this discussion. And thank you again to our sponsor, TD SYNNEX VisualSolve, who makes this series possible. And Sandy, thank you so much for that sponsorship.
Of course.
I'm so glad that the folks in the audience were able to join us today. Good luck, and like everybody said, feel free to reach out with any questions and to look for suggestions on next steps in your career. Good luck, and thank you very much.